A wealthy man laughed at his brother, who had inherited only a lame horse from their father. A year later, everyone was stunned. In a small rural village where the scent of damp earth and fresh grass filled the air, Alex Carter stood before the dilapidated barn he had just inherited. His deep blue eyes scanned the cracked walls and the roof that threatened to collapse, as his mind tried to process the events of the past few days. Just a week ago, Mr. Henry Carter, his father, had passed away suddenly due to a heart attack, shaking the entire family, but especially Alex, who had always been close to his father. Subscribe to the channel and click on the notification. Help this channel reach 1,000 subscribers. This way YouTube will deliver this content to more people who will benefit. I count on your help. Mr. Henry was known in the village for his generosity and love for farming, having built a modest agricultural enterprise over the years. On the day of the will reading, Alex was more heartbroken by the loss of his father than by the anticipation of receiving anything material. However, nothing could have prepared him for what was to come. To my eldest son, Edward Carter, I leave the main farm, the cultivable lands, and 70% of my savings, the lawyer read in a monotone voice. Alex watched as his brother Edward displayed a barely concealed smile of satisfaction, masked by a gesture of feigned sadness. To my youngest son, Alex Carter, the lawyer continued, I leave the old barn on the outskirts of the village along with the horse, Charlie, and the remaining 30% of my savings. A sepulchral silence filled the room. Alex, stunned, could not believe what he had just heard. A rundown barn and a horse were his entire inheritance. For a moment, he thought it was a cruel joke, but the lawyer's serious expression and his mother's sympathetic look confirmed it was real. Now, standing before his inheritance, Alex felt a mix of emotions churning in his stomach. Disappointment, sadness, disbelief, and above all, a burning sense of injustice. Why had his father made this decision? Did he not love him as much as Edward? A deep neigh snapped him out of his thoughts. A few meters away, tied to an old wooden post, stood Charlie, the horse that was also part of his inheritance. The animal, with a brown coat and large, calm eyes, looked at him with curiosity. Alex approached the horse slowly, extending his hand to stroke its muzzle. "Well, buddy," he murmured, "looks like we're in this together." At that moment, the sound of an approaching vehicle caught his attention. An old truck stopped near the barn, and out came Sarah and Ben, his best friends since childhood. Sarah, with her blonde hair tied in a messy ponytail and green eyes shining with concern, quickly approached Alex. "How are you?" she asked, placing a supportive hand on his shoulder. Ben, tall and sturdy, with a face weathered by fieldwork, joined them, examining the barn with a critical eye. "What a mess," he commented, whistling softly. Alex let out a bitter laugh. "Welcome to my new home," he said sarcastically. Sarah frowned. "I can't believe your father did this. I always thought he loved you and Edward equally." "I don't understand it either," replied Alex, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "What am I supposed to do with this?" Ben, who had been inspecting the barn structure, turned to them with a determined smile. "Well, it's clear, isn't it? We're going to fix it up." Alex looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. "Fix it up, Ben. This place is about to fall apart." "Exactly," Ben replied, undeterred, "which means it can only get better." "Think about it, Alex. You have the chance to build something of your own from scratch." Sarah nodded, infected by Ben's optimism. "He's right. Besides, you're not alone. We're going to help you." Alex looked at his friends, feeling a small ray of hope breaking through in his heart. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the disaster it seemed. "All right," he said finally, managing a small smile. "Where do we start?" The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Alex, Sarah, and Ben worked tirelessly to clear the area around the barn, remove debris, and assess which parts of the structure could be salvaged. Meanwhile, in the village, rumors about the Carter brothers' inheritance spread like wildfire. Many commented on how unfair Mr. Henry had been in blatantly favoring Edward, while others speculated about the hidden reasons the deceased might have had for making such a decision. Edward, for his part, wasted no time flaunting his newfound wealth. He bought a luxury sports car and started frequenting the most exclusive places in the nearby city. When he crossed paths with Alex in the village, he barely acknowledged him with a distant gesture, as if the new economic disparity between them had created a chasm. One afternoon, while Alex and his friends were resting after a long day's work, Sarah mentioned something that had been on her mind. "You know, I've been thinking, what if your father had a reason for leaving you this barn in particular?" Alex looked at her, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Well, knowing Mr. Henry, I don't believe he made this decision lightly. Maybe there's something here we're not seeing. Ben nodded thoughtfully. Sarah's right. Your father was always a shrewd man. We should investigate a bit more about the history of this place. Alex felt a spark of curiosity ignite within him. What if his friends were right? What if there was more to this inheritance than met the eye? All right, he said finally, tomorrow we'll start investigating. Maybe we'll find some answers. What Alex didn't know was that this decision would lead him down a path full of discoveries, family secrets, and unexpected twists that would change his life forever. As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Alex looked at Charlie, the horse grazing peacefully near the barn. For some reason, he felt the animal held more secrets than he could imagine. Let's find out what's going on here, buddy, he murmured, stroking Charlie's back, and something tells me you're going to be an important part of all this. With those words, the first chapter of the story came to an end, leaving Alex and his friends on the brink of a discovery that would change their lives forever. The dawn arrived with a gentle breeze that rustled the leaves of the trees near the barn. Alex awoke early, his mind full of questions and a renewed determination. The words of Sarah and Ben from the previous day echoed in his head, fueling his curiosity about the possible secrets his inheritance concealed. After a quick breakfast, Alex gathered with his friends to begin the investigation. They decided to start with the barn itself, examining every corner for clues or hidden elements that might shed light on Mr. Henry's intentions. While Sarah inspected the old furniture still standing, Ben dedicated himself to tapping the walls in search of secret compartments. Alex, for his part, focused on the floor, looking for loose boards or areas that seemed different. After hours of fruitless searching, discouragement began to take hold of the group. That's when Charlie, the horse, began to neigh insistently outside the barn. What's up with that animal? Ben asked, wiping sweat from his brow. Alex went outside to see what was happening. Charlie was restless, pawing at the ground near an old oak tree standing majestically a few meters from the barn. Intrigued, Alex approached the tree, noticing that the soil around its roots seemed to have been recently disturbed. With his heart pounding, he began to dig with his hands. Sarah, Ben, come see this, he shouted excitedly. His friends ran to his side, and together they continued digging. Soon their fingers touched something hard and metallic. Carefully, they extracted a small metal box, rusted by time but still intact. With trembling hands, Alex opened the box. Inside, they found a yellowed envelope and an old leather journal. The envelope was addressed to Alex, written in the unmistakable handwriting of Mr. Henry. Alex opened the envelope and began to read aloud. Dear Alex, if you're reading this, it means you found the treasure I hid for you. I know my decision to leave you the barn and Charlie must have seemed unfair, but there are reasons I couldn't reveal in the official will. The truth, my son, is that you are not my biological son. Your mother and I adopted you when you were a baby, but we loved you as our own from the very first moment. Your real father was my best friend, who died along with his wife in a tragic accident. This barn belonged to your biological parents. I've preserved it all these years, waiting for the right moment to tell you the truth. In the journal accompanying this letter, you'll find the full story of your origins. But there's something else you should know. You have a biological brother, someone who's been closer to you than you realize. That brother is Ben. I know this revelation will change your life, but I trust you'll handle it with the strength and integrity you've always shown. I love you, son. Never doubt that. Henry. A sepulchral silence fell over the group. Alex reread the letter again and again, unable to fully process what he had just discovered. Sarah, with tears in her eyes, placed a supportive hand on his shoulder. Ben, for his part, was pale as a ghost. No, it can't be, he stammered. I'm your brother. Alex looked up at Ben, seeing his lifelong friend in a completely new light. Suddenly, small details he had never noticed before made sense. The same eye color, the similar way they laughed, even some gestures they shared. Ben, Alex began, not really knowing what to say. Before he could continue, Ben turned and ran, disappearing among the trees. Ben, wait. Sarah shouted, but it was too late. Alex stood still, holding the letter and the journal, feeling like the world he knew was crumbling around him. His mind was a whirlwind of questions. How had they kept this secret for so long? What else didn't he know about his own life? Sarah approached him and hugged him tightly. I'm here for you, Alex, she whispered. We'll get through this together. Alex nodded silently, grateful for his friend's presence. He looked in the direction where Ben had disappeared, knowing that sooner or later they would have to face this new reality. "We have to find Ben," he said finally. "We need to talk about this." Sarah agreed, and together they began to plan how to approach the situation. Meanwhile, Alex couldn't stop thinking about the journal he hadn't yet opened. What other secrets did those pages hold? As the sun began to set, painting the sky with reddish tones, Alex and Sarah returned to the barn. Ben hadn't returned yet, and the worry was evident on their faces. "I'll give him more time," Alex said, his voice filled with understanding. "This isn't easy for any of us." That night, sitting by the dim light of an oil lamp, Alex began to read the journal of his biological parents. Each page revealed a story of love, sacrifice, and tragedy that moved him deeply. He discovered that his parents had been researchers working on a revolutionary project related to equine genetics. As he progressed through the reading, Alex began to understand why Mr. Henry had left him Charlie. The horse wasn't an ordinary animal. It was the result of years of research and genetic experimentation. With each revelation, Alex felt he was getting closer to an even greater truth, one that could change not only his life but that of many people. However, he also knew that this knowledge would bring new challenges and responsibilities. As he closed the journal in the early hours of the morning, Alex looked out the window toward the stable where Charlie rested. The horse, which had seemed a burden not long ago, now represented an invaluable legacy. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for Alex as he tried to process the truth about his origins and the hidden meaning of his inheritance. He also dealt with Ben's absence, who seemed to have vanished from village. Sarah remained an unwavering pillar of support, helping Alex continue with the barn restoration while searching for clues about Ben's whereabouts. Their relationship deepened during this period of uncertainty, and Alex began to see Sarah in a different light, appreciating her strength and compassion in a way he never had before. One morning, while Alex was reviewing his biological parents' journal for the umpteenth time, a detail caught his attention. There was a reference to a secret laboratory hidden somewhere on the property. Excited by this new discovery, he shared the information with Sarah. "A secret laboratory? That would explain a lot," she said, her eyes shining with curiosity. "Do you have any idea where it might be?" Alex shook his head. "The journal doesn't give an exact location, but it mentions it's where the wind whispers secrets." Sarah frowned thoughtfully. "Sounds like a riddle. Is there a stream or spring nearby?" "Not that I know of," Alex said, pausing as an idea formed in his mind. "Wait, I remember Mr. Henry used to talk about a hidden spring on the property. He said it was his secret place to think." With renewed enthusiasm, Alex and Sarah began exploring the property, searching for any sign of running water. After hours of fruitless searching, when they were about to give up, they heard a faint but unmistakable sound, the murmur of water. Following the sound, they arrived at a rock wall covered in moss and vines. Upon closer examination, they discovered a small opening through which a trickle of crystal-clear water flowed. "Do you think this is it?" Sarah asked, excited. Alex nodded, his heart pounding. "There's only one way to find out." Carefully, they began clearing away the vegetation, revealing a metal door hidden in the rock. After several attempts, they managed to open it, revealing a dark passage leading into the earth. Armed with flashlights, Alex and Sarah ventured into the tunnel. The air was cool and damp, and the sound of water accompanied them as they advanced. After a few minutes of walking, the tunnel widened into a spacious chamber illuminated by dim lights that activated with their presence. Before them stretched a fully equipped laboratory, though covered in a thin layer of dust that evidenced years of abandonment. Shelves filled with books and documents lined the walls, and in the center of the room were several work tables with sophisticated equipment. "I can't believe it," Alex whispered, amazed. "All this time, it was here." Sarah approached one of the tables, examining the papers scattered over it. "Alex, look at this," she said, holding up a folder. "These are studies on equine genetics. It seems your parents were working on something revolutionary." Alex took the folder and began flipping through it. The formulas and diagrams were complex, but he could understand enough to realize the magnitude of what he had in his hands. They were developing a way to enhance the resilience and quality of horses, he explained, his voice full of, "And from what I see here, they succeeded. Charlie must be the result of this research." The realization hit them both like a wave. Suddenly, Mr. Henry's decision to leave Alex the barn and Charlie took on a new meaning. It wasn't an insignificant inheritance. It was a scientific legacy of incalculable value. As they continued exploring the laboratory, discovering more details about Alex's biological parents' work, they heard a noise from the tunnel entrance. Alarmed, they turned to see a familiar figure emerging from the shadows. Ben! Alex exclaimed, surprised. Indeed, it was Ben approaching them, with a look of mixed shame and determination on his face. "I've been looking for you," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I'm sorry for running off like that. I needed time to process everything." Alex approached his newly discovered brother, not knowing exactly what to say or do. The silence between them was charged with unspoken emotions. Finally, Ben spoke. "I've been investigating on my own. I talked to my mom, our mom actually. She confirmed everything. We're brothers, Alex." The words hung in the air for a moment before Alex stepped forward and, without hesitation, embraced Ben. Years of friendship merged with this new fraternal bond, creating an even deeper connection between them. Sarah watched the scene with tears in her eyes, happy to see her friends reconciled and united by this new bond. "We have a lot to talk about," Alex said, pulling away from the embrace but keeping a hand on Ben's shoulder. "And I think you arrived just in time to be part of something incredible." As Alex and Sarah brought Ben up to speed on their discoveries, the three friends, now family, felt they were on the brink of something big. The legacy they had uncovered would not only change their lives but had the potential to impact the entire world. However, with this knowledge also came great responsibility. How would they handle this information? Who else knew about the work of Alex and Ben's parents? And more importantly, how would this affect their relationship with Edward and the rest of the Carter family? As the sun began to set outside the secret laboratory, Alex, Ben, and Sarah looked at each other, aware that they were about to embark on an adventure that would change their lives forever. With determination in their eyes, they began planning their next move, knowing that the road ahead would be full of challenges, but also incredible possibilities. The following days were a whirlwind of activity at the old barn, now converted into the operations center for Alex, Ben, and Sarah. The discovery of the secret laboratory and the truth about their origins had awakened in them a fierce determination to continue the work of their biological parents. Alex immersed himself in studying the documents found in the laboratory, spending long hours deciphering formulas and genetic theories. His mind, always eager for knowledge, absorbed the information at a dizzying pace. Ben, for his part, dedicated himself to restoring and getting the laboratory equipment up and running, using his technical skills. Sarah, with her keen intuition and organizational skills, became the glue that held the team together. In addition to helping with the research, she ensured that the brothers didn't neglect their health amid their scientific enthusiasm. As they delved deeper into the investigation, it became clear that their parents' work was truly revolutionary. They had developed a technique to significantly improve the resilience to diseases and the quality of horses without resorting to artificial genetic modifications. "It's incredible," Alex commented one night while reviewing their findings. "Our parents found a way to enhance the best natural traits of horses. If this were applied on a large scale, it could revolutionize the equine industry." Ben nodded, equally impressed. "And not just that. Think of the implications for global food security. More resilient horses mean fewer losses to diseases, which could help feed more people." Sarah, who had been listening attentively, added, "But we also have to be cautious. Information like this in the wrong hands could be dangerous." The three exchanged worried looks, aware of the responsibility that weighed on their shoulders. Amid their immersion in the investigation, they had almost forgotten the catalyst of it all, Charlie the horse. It was one afternoon while Alex was bringing fresh water to Charlie that he noticed something unusual about the animal. Charlie, usually calm and somewhat lazy, seemed more vigorous and alert. His coat shone with an unusual health for an animal of his age, and his eyes had a spark of intelligence that Alex hadn't noticed before. Intrigued, Alex decided to conduct some tests. With Ben and Sarah's help, they took blood and tissue samples from Charlie, bringing them to the laboratory for analysis. The results left them speechless. "I can't believe it," Alex murmured, reviewing the data over and over. "Charlie's DNA is unique. It shows signs of the genetic improvements our parents were working on, but it goes beyond that. It's as if it continued evolving on its own." Ben leaned over the microscope, fascinated. "Look at this. His cells show an unprecedented capacity for regeneration. This could explain why he seems younger and healthier than he should be at his age." Sarah, who had been reviewing Charlie's veterinary records, added, "According to this, Charlie should be at least 15 years old, but his physical condition is that of a horse in its prime." The revelation about Charlie added a new dimension to their investigation. They not only had their parents' theory and data, but a living, evolving example of their work. However, with this exciting discovery also came new challenges. Keeping Charlie's true nature secret became crucial. If anyone discovered his real value, they could lose him and, with him, a key piece of their research. Meanwhile, in the village, rumors about Alex's activities at the old barn began to circulate. People noticed the constant comings and goings, the lights on until late at night, and the sudden closeness between Alex and Ben, who had barely spoken before. Edward, Alex's brother, also started showing renewed interest in the property he had initially dismissed. He made frequent visits, trying to figure out what was going on. One afternoon, while Alex was working in the stable with Charlie, Edward appeared unannounced. Well, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "Seems you've adapted well to your inheritance." Alex tensed, aware of the need to keep his secret. "That's right. Turns out there's more value here than I initially thought." Edward didn't seem convinced, his gaze alternating between Alex and Charlie. "There's something you're not telling me, little brother, and I'm going to find out what it is." With those threatening words, Edward left, leaving Alex with a sense of unease. It was clear they would need to be even more careful in the future. That night, Alex shared the encounter with Ben and Sarah. The three agreed it was time to accelerate their investigation and consider how to better protect their discovery. "Maybe it's time to seek external help," Sarah suggested. "Someone with experience in the field who can validate our findings and help us protect them." Alex nodded slowly. "You're right, but who can we trust?" Ben, who had been thoughtful, suddenly looked up. "I think I know someone. My genetics professor at university is brilliant and has an impeccable reputation. We could contact him." The idea of involving someone else was both exciting and terrifying. It meant taking a step toward legitimizing their work, but also involved risks. As they discussed the pros and cons, a thought crossed Alex's mind. What if this investigation was the reason their biological parents had died? Were they about to open a Pandora's box? With these questions swirling in their minds, the trio prepared to take the next step in their scientific adventure, unaware that they were about to trigger a series of events that would change not only their lives but potentially the future of global agriculture. As the night wore on, the full moon bathed the barn and stable in its silvery light. In his pen, Charlie lifted his head to the night sky, his eyes shining with an intelligence that went beyond what anyone could imagine in a simple horse. The animal seemed to sense that great changes were coming and somehow was ready to play his part in the story that was about to unfold. The decision to contact Ben's genetics professor, Dr. William Grant, marked a turning point in their investigation. After ensuring Dr. Grant signed a confidentiality agreement, they invited him to the property to present their findings. On the day of Dr. Grant's visit, the tension was palpable in the air. Alex, Ben, and Sarah had spent days preparing a detailed presentation of their investigation, ensuring they had all the evidence and data meticulously organized. When Dr. Grant arrived, a middle-aged man with bright, curious eyes behind his glasses, the first thing he did was examine Charlie. His expression shifted from curiosity to amazement in a matter of minutes. "Extraordinary," he murmured, stroking the animal's back. "I've never seen a specimen like this. His muscular structure, his vitality. It's like you've discovered the fountain of youth for horses." Alex smiled, feeling a mix of pride and relief. "That's just the beginning, Dr. Grant. Wait until you see what we've discovered in the laboratory." The following hours were a whirlwind of scientific explanations, data analysis, and passionate discussions. Dr. Grant listened attentively, asking incisive questions, and taking notes frantically. At the end of the presentation, the scientist removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes, visibly impacted. "Young people, what you have here is revolutionary. Not only have you improved the genetic quality of horses, but you've discovered a method that could have applications beyond the equine industry. We're talking about potential advances in regenerative medicine longevity. The implications are enormous." Dr. Grant's validation was like a breath of fresh air for the team. Finally, someone from the scientific world recognized the importance of their work. "What do you suggest we do now, Doctor?" Sarah asked, eager to know the next steps. Dr. Grant took a moment before responding. "We must proceed with caution. This kind of discovery will attract a lot of attention, not all of it welcome. I suggest we prepare a paper for publication in a prestigious scientific journal, but first, we must ensure we legally protect your research. Ben nodded thoughtfully. You mean patents? Exactly, confirmed Dr. Grant. I'd also recommend seeking backing from a reputable institution. It could help you secure a grant to continue your research in a more equipped environment. Alex felt a pang of reluctance at the idea of leaving the barn and the secret laboratory. This place, which he had initially considered a burden, now felt like his home and the heart of his project. And what about Charlie? He asked, looking toward the stable where the horse rested. Dr. Grant smiled understandingly. Charlie is the key piece in all this. We'll need to conduct more tests, but with proper care, I suggest he stays here for now, where he's safe and in his familiar environment. As they discussed the details of how to proceed, a noise outside the barn alerted them. Alex looked out the window and saw a familiar car speeding away. It's Edward, he said, frowning. I think he was spying on us. For your investigation, we must act quickly, urged Dr. Grant. Prepare all your data and samples. We'll take them to a safe place tomorrow. That night, while packing years of research frantically, Alex couldn't help but feel they were on the brink of something great but also dangerous. The excitement of scientific discovery mingled with the fear of the unknown. Sarah, noticing his concern, approached and took his hand. We're in this together, Alex. Whatever happens, we'll face it as a team. Alex looked at her, grateful for her presence and constant support. At that moment, he realized his feelings for Sarah had evolved beyond friendship. But before he could say anything, Ben interrupted them. Guys, you have to see this, he said, holding up an old notebook he had found among his parents' papers. I think I've discovered why our parents died. Alex's heart skipped a beat. They were about to uncover the truth about the tragic fate of their biological parents. As Ben began to read the notebook's contents, a series of loud knocks on the door startled them. Edward's voice echoed from outside. Alex, I know you're in there. Open the door right now. The four of them exchanged looks, aware that the moment they had feared had arrived. How would they protect their discovery? What secrets would the notebook reveal about their parents' past? With his heart pounding, Alex approached the door, prepared to face his brother and whatever fate had in store for him. With a deep breath, Alex opened the door, confronting an agitated and angry Edward. What the hell is going on here? Demanded Edward, pushing past Alex into the barn. His eyes scanned the room, stopping on the boxes filled with documents and laboratory equipment. What is all this? Edward asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. Alex tried to remain calm. Edward, let me introduce you to Dr. William Grant. He's a geneticist helping us with a research project. Edward let out a sarcastic laugh. Research? In this rundown barn? Don't take me for a fool, Alex. I've been hearing rumors in the village, and now I see they're true. You're up to something big, aren't you? Before Alex could respond, Ben stepped forward. Edward, what we're doing here is important. It could change many people's lives for the better. Edward looked at Ben with disdain. And since when are you two so close? There's something you're not telling me. Sarah, sensing the growing tension, tried to mediate. Edward, please give us a chance to explain. I don't want explanations, Edward shouted. I want the truth. What's in this barn that's so valuable, and why did Dad leave it to you instead of me? The silence that followed was deafening. Alex looked at Ben, then at Sarah, and finally at Dr. Grant. With an almost imperceptible nod, they all seemed to agree that the time had come for the truth. Edward, Alex began, his voice trembling slightly. There's something you need to know, something that will change everything we believe about our family. For the next hour, Alex revealed the whole story to Edward, his adoption, the true identity of his biological parents, the discovery of the secret laboratory, and Charlie's importance in their research. Edward listened in silence, his expression shifting from disbelief to shock and finally to a mixture of pain and confusion. Why? Edward finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. Why didn't Dad ever tell me? Alex approached his brother, placing a hand on his shoulder. I think he was trying to protect us both. And maybe, just maybe, he hoped we'd discover the truth together as a family. Edward sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the revelation. All this time, I thought Dad favored you, that he didn't trust me to handle the family inheritance. But in reality, he was preserving the legacy of your real parents. As Edward processed the information, Ben handed him the notebook he had found earlier. There's more, Ben said, opening the old diary. I think this explains what really happened to our parents. Everyone gathered around Ben as he read the notebook aloud. It revealed that Alex and Ben's biological parents had discovered a powerful agricultural corporation conducting dangerous and illegal genetic experiments on horses. They had been on the verge of exposing the truth when they suffered the accident that cost them their lives. It wasn't an accident, Alex said, his voice filled with emotion. They were silenced. Dr. Grant, who had been listening intently, intervened. This explains why it's so crucial we protect this research. We're not just talking about a scientific breakthrough, but exposing a conspiracy that's been hidden for years. Edward, who had remained silent, stood up. I want to help, he said with determination. I've been a selfish idiot all this time, but now I see how important this is. It's bigger than any of us. Alex looked at his brother with surprise and gratitude. Are you sure? It could be dangerous. Edward nodded. We're family, Alex. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. And family supports each other. With Edward on board, the team felt stronger than ever. They spent the rest of the night planning their next steps, how to protect their research, how to expose the corrupt corporation, and how to honor the legacy of Alex and Ben's parents. As dawn approached, Alex went to the stable to see Charlie. The horse looked at him with intelligent eyes, as if understanding the magnitude of what was to come. We're about to change the world, buddy, Alex said, stroking Charlie's back, and all started with you. As the sun rose on the horizon, illuminating the old barn and the surrounding fields, Alex felt a mix of excitement and determination. The road ahead would be difficult, full of challenges and dangers, but also of infinite possibilities. Subscribe to the channel and click on the notification. Help this channel reach 1,000 subscribers. This way YouTube will deliver this content to more people who will benefit. I count on your help. With his newly discovered and expanded family by his side, Alex knew they were ready to face whatever came their way. The truth about his past had given them the strength to forge a new future, one that could change the world for the better. As he returned to the barn where the others awaited him to begin their new adventure, Alex remembered his adoptive father's words in the letter. I trust you'll handle it with the strength and integrity you've always shown. And so, with a heart full of hope and determination, Alex prepared to honor the legacy of both families, the one that raised him and the one that gave him life. The future was uncertain, but he was ready to face it, knowing that each challenge would bring them one step closer to the truth and a better world.